So, good morning everyone. In our previous meeting, we have tackled the quadratic equation, which is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So, a quadratic equation has an equal sign. But when we say quadratic inequalities, it uses this sign greater than, less than, greater than or equal, and less than or equal. So pag mula ang kita ng quadratic inequalities, we only have to change the equal sign into these signs. So naatay ax squared plus bx plus c is greater than 0. That means it has a positive sign, or the numbers are positive integers. Now, if we have ax squared plus bx plus c is less than 0, then we have negative sign or negative integers. Now, if we have ax squared plus bx plus c is greater than or equal to 0, then we have the value 0 and positive integers. And for the last one, if we have ax squared plus bx plus c is less than or equal to 0, then we have the values 0 and negative integers. Remember that these variables a, b, and c are elements of real numbers. So, ayaw na kalimti. Now, how do we solve quadratic inequalities? So, for you to easily solve it, we have 5 steps to follow. What are those? Okay, step number 1 is to move all the terms. I'll just write it down para mas dali ninyo masundan. So, step number 1, move all the terms to one side. Move all the terms to one side. For step number 2, simplify and factor the quadratic equation. So, simplify and factor the quadratic equation. For step number 3, we have to find the roots of the corresponding quadratic equation. Step number 4 is to use the roots to divide the number line into regions. That means we are going to divide. Number 5 is to test each region using the inequality. So these are the easy steps for you to solve a quadratic inequality. Now let us apply these steps into an example. Okay, example. We have to write it down. Examples. Okay, so if I have here an inequality, x squared is greater than x plus 2. What am I supposed to do? What is the first step that I am going to do or to take? So, in the given steps, we have step number 1, to move all the terms to one side. Move all the terms to one side. So, it is either we are going to move x squared to the right side or x plus 2 to the left side. But since ang first term ng ato quadratic equation is x squared man, since we have the degree 2, para mas madali sa ato, we just have to use the subtraction property of equality, or to subtract x plus 2, copy the inequality sign, and then we have x plus 2 minus x plus 2. Now, what do we do here next? So we have x squared, copy. Now we have these close and open parentheses, and we have the sign outside it. So we have to multiply this negative sign or minus to the inner term. So we have negative times positive x. So we have negative x. Remember the signs, the rules for the signs. If we have different signs, if we have here negative times negative, that would be positive. If we have here positive times positive, that would be positive as well. If we have here negative times positive, then that becomes negative. And if we have here positive times negative, still we have the negative. So from here, negative times positive x, unlike sign, so we have negative x. Next, negative times positive 2, still we have negative. And then copy the coefficient or the constant 2. Next is to copy the inequality. So here, we have x plus 2. We just have to copy that. And then the same rule, i-distribute lang nato ang sign to the inner terms. So negative times positive x, that's negative x. Negative times positive 2, that's negative 2. So copy the expressions on the left side. We have x squared minus x minus 2. Copy the inequality as well, and then we have to manipulate or to simplify the expression on the right side. So first is to locate or to find the same terms. Now we have x and x, parehas, diba? So we have to subtract that one. X minus x, that's 0. Positive 2 minus 2, that's still 0. So now we have x squared minus x minus 2 is greater than 0. So we're done with the step number 1. Next, we have to move on to the step number 2, or to simplify and factor the quadratic equation. So how do we simplify this quadratic equation? Okay, let me move it. So, in simplifying this quadratic equation, tapos naman na-simplify na nato, i-factor na lang nato. Okay, so unsay factor ng x squared minus x minus 2? What are the factors of this expression? Now, in factoring, trinomial man di ba? So, we have to look at the first term and the last term of the expression. So, ang factor ng first term nato, which is x squared, we could have x times x. Ang factor ng ato last term or the third term is, in which we have that number 2 is 1 and 2. Copy the inequality sign and then 0. So, how do we know kung hai man dapat na sign or uno na sign ang ato gamiton? Now, we have to take into consideration the middle term or simply the second term. Now, naatay negative x, or kung hubaro nato na, that is negative 1x. So, probably, since negative man is ija, ang ato gamiton na sign is negative and positive, or positive and negative. Now, the problem here is asa man nato ibutang sa negative na sign and si positive na sign. Sa 1 ba or sa 2? Now, if we are going to have 1 as the negative and 2 as the positive, then we will get positive 1. So, waya ni dya masatisfy kaning middle term since this is negative. Now, if we are going to set 1 to be positive and 2 to be negative, then we have negative 1. Then, it satisfies our middle term. It has negative sign. So, that means si 2 nato mauna ang atong negative and si 1 nato mauna ang atong positive na sign. So, we have here the factor for this. X squared minus x minus 2 is simply x plus 1 and x minus 2. Do you follow? Now, the next thing, step 3, is to find the roots of the corresponding quadratic equation. So, using these factors, hanapon nato ang roots. Buyago nato na si dya. We have here x plus 1. We have to set that into 0. And x minus 2, we have to equate that to 0 as well. Now, applying the properties of equality, in our first equation, we are going to use subtraction property of equality. Or, simply, subtract both sides by 1. So, 0 minus 1. Now, on the left side, we're left with the variable x, and we have our value for x is negative 1. Next, we have x minus 2. So, this is subtraction or negative. What we have to use, what we are going to use is the addition property of equality, or to simply add 2 to both sides. We have x minus 2 plus 2 equals 0 plus 2. So, negative 2 plus 2, still that's 0. So, we have only here the variable x, and then 0 plus 2, that's 2. So, now we have the values for our x, or the roots of the quadratic equation. The next step is to use the roots to divide the numbers. We are going to use the roots to divide the numbers. So, let us create a number line here. Pasag diirakan kong hiwi ang ako linya. Okay. That is a line extending to both sides, and we have the center of origin, or the point of origin, that is 0. On the left side, we have the negative sign. So, we could have here negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, and negative 5. So, on the right side, we have the positive signs. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, what was indicated in step number 4? That is to use the roots to divide the number line into regions. So, now we have to divide this number line into regions. Take note that the values for our x, or the roots, we have negative 1. Am I right? No, that's okay. That's negative 1 and positive 2.